Infinity War has conquered the box office and shocked fans around the world. Now that most of us have seen it, as evidenced by its record-breaking opening weekend, we can begin speculating about what happened and what's to come. Some of those theories are pretty crazy, but that just gets us more excited. Needless to say, spoilers for Infinity War lie ahead. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe and hit that little bell for more content from Screen Rant every day. The Soul World. With the snap of his fingers, Thanos wiped out half of the life in the entire universe. All those affected by the random draw were turned into dust. But are they really dead? That's the question that many fans have been wondering as of late. Sure, they may be actually dead and will be brought back by some means in the next film, but what if, clinically speaking, they're not dead? As soon as Thanos snapped his fingers, we're transported to a very orange-looking plane where we see the child version of Gamora talking with her adoptive father. This is more than likely the Soul World, the place where all the souls lost because of the Soul Stone go. Seeing as that stone is the one that's responsible for wiping out so much life, it's certainly possible that these souls are actually stashed away inside the Soul Stone itself. This means that the Avengers will likely have to venture into the world itself to recover not only their friends and allies, but the rest of the universe as well. That, or they'll have to find a way to undo the effects of the finger snap and ensure it doesn't play out again.
It's like his muscles are made of Kotati metal fibers.
Stop massaging his muscles.
Prequels. As many of Earth's mightiest heroes were being turned to dust at the end of Infinity War, many people weren't that worried about the actual event. Sure, it was shocking and unexpected for many, but with Homecoming 2 and Guardians Volume 3 on the horizon, and Doctor Strange 2 and Black Panther 2 inevitable, some of the tension was deflated from that scene. But what if they actually are really dead? There's a way for Marvel to keep their deaths permanent and having more adventures with their favorite characters, and that's to have their sequel take place before Infinity War. Think about it. Civil War took place in 2016, and Black Panther took place a few days after that. That means that in Infinity War, it's been around 2 years since we last saw T'Challa in action. So there's plenty of room to tell more stories with him in that space, especially if they're standalone tales. The same applies to Homecoming 2 and Guardians 3. Since Guardians Volume 2 took place right after 1, there's no reason why we can't have a story set before Infinity War with teenage Groot. Homecoming 2 is still set in high school, so Parker hasn't aged that much. It's certainly possible. A strange plan. Throughout Infinity War, we were reminded by Doctor Strange that he's tasked with protecting the Time Stone, and that nothing will stop him from protecting it. If that means allowing Tony Stark or Peter Parker to die to ensure the safety of the stone, then so be it. So it was surprising then to see Strange give up the Time Stone to Thanos in order to save Tony's life near the end of the movie. Why the sudden 180 on his own rule? Before Thanos arrived on Titan, Strange peeked into the future and saw over 14 million outcomes of their battle. Of those battles, only one saw them victorious. So it's safe to assume that Strange knew that in order to win, they'd have to lose. But it's insanely important that Tony ends up surviving that moment, as he'll play a role in what's to come next. So why Tony then? That's one of the mysteries that surrounds Avengers 4 presently. Of all the possible reasons to keep Tony Stark alive, it likely has to do with knowledge rather than brute force. It's very likely that Strange saw Tony Stark using his own tech to save the day, and only Tony would understand how to decipher it. So what would be the device to help Tony in this matter? Well, Barf, of course. Barf. If you need a refresher, Tony Stark's binary augmented retro framing technology, Barf for short, was used to allow him to revisit old memories in Civil War. He played out his final encounters with his parents for an audience and illustrated how the tech could be used in the future once it was fully operational. It was an interesting scene, which paid off later once we got the reveal that Bucky killed his parents. But it was the technology itself that stood out, as this scene could have easily been told via flashback. But instead, the Russo brothers, who also directed Infinity War and Avengers 4, implemented a piece of technology that allowed Tony Stark to go back to places he'd already visited. So who's to say that Tony won't use Barf to revisit events from Phase 2 and even Phase 1 for clues about the Infinity Stones and Thanos himself? If that's the case, we may revisit some key moments from the MCU and see them in a new light once they're under the microscope. Perhaps the answer to beating Thanos was actually present during the Battle of New York, and we were all too busy watching the action to notice a clue hiding right in the middle of it. Time will only tell.
Is that the best you can do?
Fantastic Four will show up. As many of us know, there is a Fox-Disney merger in progress. Once that's signed and sealed, Disney will have full access to Fox's catalog of Marvel characters. That includes the X-Men related characters and the Fantastic Four, among others. But there are those who believe that the deal is already signed and that Disney hasn't come forward with the news for a very good reason. That reason is that they've been quietly filming pickup shots for Avengers 4 that will feature the Fantastic Four. Being one of the original Marvel comics, they have a lot of love in the comic community, but have yet to find their footing on the big screen. Having these characters show up unexpectedly would not only send the audience into a frenzy, but would open the door for so many possibilities in the future. While Disney and Kevin Feige wouldn't have time to film more, a small Fantastic cameo, akin to Spider-Man's in Civil War, might very well happen for this untitled fourth Avengers film. If that were to happen though, who would you want to be playing the team? What's your dream casting for the Fantastic Four? Let us know in the comments below. Secret Invasion. For a while, Avengers 3 and 4 were supposed to be one film, cut along the middle, resulting in a Part 1, Part 2 structure. As production of Infinity War got underway, the Russo brothers decided to abandon this idea as the third Avengers film was taking on a relatively self-contained story with a beginning, middle, and end. Sure, the events of Infinity War directly impact the next film, but this isn't like The Matrix 2 and 3, for instance. So what happens next? The directors have been extra sensitive about the title of their fourth film, claiming it'll be both a spoiler to the third film and that it will be epic. Of course, now all eyes are on Avengers 4, so what could this earth-shattering title be? One possible theory states that it'll play into the hands of Secret Invasion. In the comics, Secret Invasion was the event that saw the alien species known as the Skrulls take over the Earth. With half of Earth's population in the dust, quite literally, this could be a prime moment for the Skrulls to make their move. Furthermore, the Skrulls will play an integral part in the plot of Captain Marvel, so this outcome isn't as far-fetched as it may seem on paper.
I think it's good, except it sucks.
Back to the future. Time seems to be playing a part in the events of Avengers 4 no matter which way you look at it. The consequences of Infinity War were so dire that going back seems like the only logical step. Now that Thanos is chilling at his cabin seemingly without the gauntlet, one has to wonder what has happened to the stones. One theory on the internet suggests that the main plot for Avengers 4 will see what's left of the Avengers splitting up to try and find where the time stone is currently hidden. With the power of the stone, the Avengers could revert time back to the moment of the famous snap and prevent Thanos from actually doing it. But in order to get there, the Avengers are going to have to do some trippy and crazy stuff. They don't have Doctor Strange to rely on or any of the other members of the team, so just how they'll go about getting the stone and actually using it remains a mystery still. The likely candidate for the latter question will be Captain Marvel, of course, who is one of the strongest characters on the Marvel roster and the most fitting to wield the power of the stones. The Quantum Realm. Where are Ant-Man and Hawkeye? That was the question many fans had after the events of Infinity War. We got a little nugget of information in the film that both men took deals with the government to be with their own families, but surely the whole dusting situation will bring these heroes out of retirement. With Ant-Man and the Wasp exploring the Quantum Realm in their upcoming solo adventure, that film may end up being more important to the plot of Avengers 4 than we realize. There is a reason why this movie and Captain Marvel are being released after Infinity War after all, and that's likely to introduce audiences to the Quantum Realm properly. Teased in Ant-Man 1 and in Doctor Strange, it's another dimension where space and time play by different rules. So what if Ant-Man and Hawkeye, along with the Wasp, end up traveling through the Quantum Realm together in search of other heroes, or even other versions of the MCU heroes? Earth's mightiest heroes are in need of some serious backup, and this may be the way to do it. Knowing that Ant-Man and the Wasp's plot links heavily with the Quantum Realm really makes this theory seem plausible. It's downright crazy, but too cool not to get us excited about the possibilities.
Tell me his name again.
Thanos.
Gamora is now Death. In the comics, Thanos' main reason for doing the terrible things he's doing is Lady Death herself. The comic world has a deity who is the literal manifestation of death itself, and in order to court her, Thanos decides that killing half the universe would cut it, as there were more people being born than dying, and Death wasn't having it. Well, the MCU isn't playing by that angle, but there's no reason to assume that they can't interpret things a little bit differently. When the snap happens, Thanos sees Gamora as a child in the Soul World and tells her that the cost of of this mission was everything. We think that Thanos legitimately loved his adoptive daughter, despite their rough patches, and that Thanos might be the one who undoes everything that happens. Instead of trying to win the affections of Mistress Death like in the comics, Thanos is trying to win back the affection of Gamora. Realizing that his mission cost him everything he holds dear, or rather the one thing he holds dear, he may go back and stop himself from obtaining the Soul Stone. The end credits did say that it was Thanos who will return, and not the Avengers, so it's quite possible that he'll be the primary character yet again in Avengers 4.
I'm Peter, by the way.
Doctor Strange.
Oh.
Namor will show up. With T'Challa seemingly dead and the throne of Wakanda empty, it may be time for another foe to try and conquer the African country. Fans of the comics will know that T'Challa had a long-standing feud with another Marvel hero, or villain depending on how you look at it. With the country unprotected, it's quite likely Namor will enter the narrative. He wouldn't be integral to the plot. In fact, he'd likely only serve as a setup plot device for Black Panther 2. For those unacquainted with Namor, he's the king of Atlantis, much like how Aquaman is in the DC comic books and the DCEU. Like the Black Panther, he's the king of an advanced culture hidden away from the rest of humanity. He's an ally to the Avengers, but has a strong dislike for T'Challa and Wakandan culture. In the 2013 comic book crossover event, Namor is the one to sell Wakanda out to the Black Order. Having him be both a villain and an ally would be a fresh and unique experience, as the Avengers could certainly use some help right now. But at what cost? Here's hoping that this story actually comes true, as the potential for great stories is too good to pass up. Boom! Well, that's it for now, everyone. Which theory do you think is the craziest one for Avengers 4? Which do you think is the most likely? And what other theories do you think are possible that we didn't put on our list? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and be sure to like this video and subscribe to Screen Rant for more videos just like this in your playlist every day. Thanks for watching.